Hi, everyone. I wanted to talk to you about this fabulous conjunction that we have going on. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jackie, and I'm really excited to be doing this video for you guys today. So this is all about the Jupiter and Saturn great conjunction. Everybody's talking about it. So I want to just break it down into a very hopefully very easy to understand, but so that you can really have direct application on your life. I'm going to be breaking it out into each of the signs. However, for those of you who watch my tarot, I'm going to be pulling tarot for everybody's individual sign for that week. Okay, I'm going to be doing one of my deep reads for this great conjunction in my tarot readings. It would be way too long for me to talk about the astrology and for me to do an extended reading on the tarot as well. So let's just dedicate what's really going on astrologically in the sky, having to do with this great conjunction. So Jupiter and Saturn are two of the largest planets, first of all, in our solar system, representing the expansion of horizons and very strict boundaries at the same time, right? Because wherever Saturn is, we have this idea of strict boundaries. So Saturn's going to enter Aquarius for the first time in decades on December 17th, and Jupiter is going to follow along behind a few days later on the 21st, and they're going to align at 0 degrees of Aquarius to form this great conjunction of 2020. I'm going to discuss it a little while why this is so profound. We've never had this in our lifetime, and so therefore it is a pretty big deal, I would think. So great conjunctions happen though every 19 to 20 years. I mean, they happen, right? But this is going to be the first time these two planets have aligned since 2000. I think it was May. Yeah, it was May of 2000 it aligned. But they were not this close. See, that's the thing. So I'm going to talk about why it's important that they are at 0 degrees. This is very, very important to understand. But it did happen in 2000, right? So depending on, I'm going to mention when I break into everybody's individual signs, where you guys had it the last go around, what house. So maybe talking about the houses respectively and how it's going to be impacting each sign. So it did happen in 2000, but it didn't happen in Aquarius, and it didn't happen at this proximity. So that's where it's significantly different, just even from that point. They have not met actually since 1623 at this direct point. So that is a long time. And we're never going to see this again in our lifetime. So this is important because Aquarius is very innovative. It's very open-minded, right? It's the sign of the humanitarian. It's the sign of our goals. It's the sign of our friendships too, right? It's the 11th house, really. But we'll talk more about that as we go along. But this connection is going to inspire at the same time, because there's Saturn in there. It's going to inspire rebellion, unconventional thinking, but brighter visions for the whole collective. And especially, I think, because we have the star Aldebaran in there aspecting, the blinders are going to be taken off the collective, I think, off the collective. And we're going to be seeing more truth than we've seen in a long time. And this is the thing. And I'm going to come back to this as well. We have to get out of the mindset that we're all always in right now, myself included, where it's like you want it yesterday. If you say it's going to happen on the 21st, I want my life to be different on the 22nd. It doesn't happen like that. But I'm going to explain how the seed's going to crack open on the 21st. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it shift. It takes 2 years for it to start to unfold, and then 20 years for it to fully manifest. And it'll make more sense to you when we get to those signs and we talk about, and I remind you of where it was hitting you 20 years ago, those of you who are old enough to remember back that far. And then let's see how things rolled out from that last conjunction. And believe me when I tell you, it was way less intense than what's going to be going on here. So for the entirety of 2020, we've been dealing now with this intensity of having both Saturn and Jupiter in Capricorn, right? We've all been feeling it right alongside there with Pluto. We've all been feeling it. And this has served up a whole lot of Capricorn's rule-oriented, structured, authoritarian energy. No shade on you Capricorns, right? We love our Cappies, right? We do. We love our goats. But I mean, that is, you guys are ruled by Saturn, and that's what it's all about. But as these planets move into Aries Aquarius, because now we're going into air signs, we've been in earth signs for years. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But we're finally going into air. So this is just going to bring kind of like a lighter vibe, right? More freedom I suppose, like a new age of freedom. This is definitely a time where great shifts can occur in our lives. They are going to occur in our lives. Not can, they will. Even though we might be super confused about them right now, really confused about how to move forward. If things don't make any sense to you right now, if you truly can't see on the other side of whatever it is that you're in right now, don't worry about it. Join the club. Everyone is feeling it, okay? I think the people who think or truly believe that they have it all figured out, that's fabulous, but you're probably going to be in for some surprises. Not bad. That's not to scare you. It's just to say that things are shifting in fundamental ways for all of us, and none of us are really immune to it, right? So then this is all a good thing, guys, because it's all about leveling us up, right? So the key here, though, is to really trust ourselves and lean into our truth. So much easier said than done. Lean into our truth, though, based on reality. Lean into our truth. I really think that the question for the next at least 2 years should be, am I feeling this way because I'm scared, or am I feeling this way because it doesn't feel right to me? Am I feeling this way because this is the right thing for me, or am I feeling this way because I'm being seduced into something? Ask those big questions. So important to ask those questions, because our truth is really going to drive us where we need to go, right? But it's always those false narratives that we, as part of the human condition, inevitably end up telling ourselves. We just do. It's just part of it, it just is. So it's worthy to check and just say, okay, wait a minute. And it's not easy. You have to be a very how do I want to say this? Because it's not even emotionally intelligent. It's not. And it really is very little to do with, and it has nothing to do with intellect. Willing, let's say willing. You have to be a very willing person to be able to look at yourself and to be able to identify where you might be glorifying that relationship beyond what it truly is in reality. Where you are trying to make excuses for that job, that person, that dream that you didn't go after, whatever it is, it's going to be something different for each of you. But it really is a time for us to really lean into our truth. And we all do. Again, we all, one time or another, we all tell ourselves this. Now, Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. Okay, let's talk about exactly what this is. So this is otherwise known as the Great Conjunction. Again, it's happening on December 21st at that 0 degree point. This is exceptional for a few reasons. The most important one, and this I think is so profound, guys. We all know about the Star of Bethlehem, whether you're Christian or not. You have heard about, however you want to see Christ. I was raised Christian. I know there are every different kind of faith out there. Some people understand Christ to be our savior, others a great prophet, or whatever. We all understand that he did live, right, at one point or another. He's a historical figure at the very least, regardless of where whatever end of the spectrum you fall in how you perceive him. However, it's generally understood from a historical perspective that they wanted to find him, and they couldn't find him. So what did they do? They followed the Star of Bethlehem, right? So this is the Great Conjunction said to have been happening during the birth of Christ. And many know this, many consider this to be the Star of Bethlehem, where it was Jupiter and Pluto sort of on top of each other like that. And that there was just the illumination and the brightness of it was able to identify where he was, because it was believed, according to the prophets, that once this luminary would light up the sky, it meant that the king is born, right? So and lo and behold, that did end up leading them to him. So many astronomers do report that this is the same placement and positioning occurring in the sky, and it was in the constellation of Pisces, which rules the Jewish lands, and it was followed by the star. It was through following the star that they were able to find Christ when he was born. So, because of all of that, they do label this conjunction, the Great Conjunction where a king is born. This is one version of the story. And it's very interesting to me just because there is a lot of documented evidence to support this story, and as a researcher, I'm all about that. It's very easy for people to get on and say things, but a lot of what we hear in this community is a lot of conjecture, regarding this thing. But there's a lot of evidence to support this. So it's a very, to me, it's a very interesting idea. Now they do conjunct every 20 years, as I said, but they typically don't fall this close together. So it is this idea and this strong belief that it brings not only profits but also revolutions. So there's a lot of revolutionary change. Now, to a lot of people, that can seem really scary, like revolution. Oh my God, we're thinking back to like the American Revolution, right? And all that. We live in a different world right now. We can revolt in different ways. Like we can make change. We can incite different levels of thinking. There are different ways that we can approach this, okay? And that's going to be happening because it's happening in air, right? And remember, air is thought, it's truth. What's air? Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. It's Mercury, it's communication. It's how we communicate, right? Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus is all about the future, science, technology. I mean, this is like, we're just being swept into the future. So that means a lot, though, because there's a couple of things to think about here. Now, to break it down a little more, this cyclical conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, because it's a cycle, right, every 20 years, this has been a real, these have been used for demarcating historical errors in traditional astronomy for years, traditional astrology and astronomy for years, both. So when Jupiter and Saturn come together, there's both this intensity of old forms dying away, right? Things reaching their expiration date, not working anymore. Old, like swampy, dishonest, nonsense ways, that getting dying out as the fertility of something new comes in. And if you think about it from a historical perspective, this has been going on for a very long time, right? I mean, in the past century, this cycle aligns with the transition between decades, with the conjunctions and the oppositions here, marking the start of each decade. If you think about like 1980, and then the opposition was in 90, the conjunction was in 2000, the opposition was in 2010. And if we look back at these years from a historical perspective, it makes a lot of sense. There were a lot of big things that happened, give or take that year, right? Because I understand the calendar it can take us just so far. So we always want to go, 6-12 months on one side or the other. I think we always need to do that, right? From a historical perspective anyway. So very interesting there. So this is definitely obviously marking the end of a huge cycle, huge. And, those of you who've been watching me, when I speak about like when planets are retrograde and then they go direct, what do I always say? It's that pre or post shadow, right? It's right before it goes direct that it's its most intense. That's like when everything rises to the surface. It's where the core of the energy rises up. So, hello, 2020, like, that's exactly what all of this has been, but there's this atmosphere of anticipation, is there not? Absolutely. Building, right? Building during this year on this precipice. We're feeling this new era, right? While simultaneously, these old issues are resurfacing and they need to be resolved. They're so in our face, we cannot not look at them, right? I mean, and we're making sure that they're looked at. Right? I mean, we're all about, like, right now, as we're approaching this, all of this information is coming out, even just here in the States, about all of this nonsense that's been going on with the voting fraud. I mean, all of these people that are coming forward, sworn affidavits, people of no particular political party. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm just only using that as one example. That's not the end all and be all. There's a lot more going on than that, guys, right? If we think about it a little more broadly, a, outside of COVID, yeah, 2020 is definitely the precipice of it. But there were a lot of things building up to this. Our change in how we perceive sexuality, our roles in relationships, how we perceive what matters. There have been fundamental shifts kind of throughout, right? like it, don't like it, it doesn't matter. The change is here and it's happening. So together, these two combine, very expansive and an imaginative vision with the structure and the discipline needed to manifest the results as we strip away all of these old ideas and these old ways of being. Now, I want you to understand, we're going to be doing this very much on a personal level as well. This is not only for society, this is big time on a personal level. I'm going to talk about, according to your rising sign, where it's going to be hitting you the most. So, but let's just talk a little bit more about this, because Jupiter, a lot of people don't understand what Jupiter is. We say, oh, Jupiter is luck and expansion. Jupiter signifies generosity and very fortunate opportunities, right? It's the wheel of fortune in tarot. So it's about, it's a changing of the tides, really. And it's about taking a chance on doing something different and it going really well, right? So these fortunate opportunities. And it could also lead, though, the shadow manifestation, because every energy has a shadow, right? Every energy. The shadow manifestation, though, of Jupiter is egotism, right? It's egoic greed and it's delusions of grandeur that requires this contemplative focus of Saturn to trim away and it's the excess and strengthen what's really there. And that's where Saturn is like our best friend. You know, when that happens, says we want to make sure that what we don't want to do is get into this mindset wherever our Jupiter rules Sagittarius. I'm going to get ahead of myself. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, right? And we love Sagittarius. It's about our moral code, our moral compass, moving forward with integrity. We love Sagittarius. But Sagittarius, because it's a very philosophical sign, it also often struggles with seeing things other than the way they want to see things. And that's not Sagittarius suns. I'm not talking about Sagittarius rising. I'm talking to all of us, because we all have a ninth house and we all have Sagittarius somewhere in our chart. Even if we don't have it where we can visibly see it, it's always the ruler of our ninth house of our belief system. So we can all struggle with that when we're in a low vibration that we think we know better. So I'm not speaking directly to Sagittarius when I'm saying that. I'm speaking to the Sagittarius in all of us when I say that. So we do want to be careful of that, okay? Because that Saturn is definitely going to help us with that. At the same time, we need the inspirational revitalization of Jupiter to mediate the negative side of Saturn that can end up, that could bring fear, right? Over limitations and obstacles and lead to depressive stagnation. So that can happen in Saturn, you know, and we've all been there at one point or another where it's like, damn it, I can't get out of my own way. I could totally tell you everything that's wrong. I don't know what to do about it, you know, and that's where Jupiter comes in, is like, come on, you know. I want you to think about Jupiter and Saturn like this. Saturn is like, Saturn's like the grandfather, and Jupiter's like the grandson who just turned 21 and wants to go and party. And they're hanging out together. So Jupiter's just like, come on, let's go have a good time. You know, Saturn's a good time. And they're saying like, you don't know what you're doing. Of course I know what I'm doing. You know, you grown-ups, you're always telling me that I don't know what I'm doing, kind of thing, right? And that's what a lot of people are actually calling this energy, like the age of the teenager or the adolescent or something like that. And I can understand why they're saying that, right? Because it is this very mature energy that's hanging with this younger, more daring, right? Saturn's always got to Sagittarius always has a backpack ready to go. They want to travel, they want to philosophize, they want to meet different people, do different things. And Saturn's like rules, regulations, no, you know. So the two of these together, it's always going to be a constant balancing act of tempering between these two, right? So, but here now with this conjunction, we're going to need to shift in between the synthesizing growth of Jupiter and the methodical reordering of Saturn, because that is what Saturn ends up calling us to do, is like this reordering. So again, every 20 years they come together. It's really important to understand the pattern that they're forming. Okay. And now it lasts for 200 years. So you're like, wait a minute, you said 2 years, 20 years, and 200 years. This is the deal. We're going to be hanging in air signs for 200, well, 200 years, yeah. This particular conjunction, though, is going to be rolling out over the next 2 years, but it's going to be changing the trajectory over your life for the next 20 years. Okay, you understand? So just to break it down, this will go back, right, 200 years, right? If we go back, that's when it was occurring in the water signs, right? At the beginning of the 15th century until the beginning of the 17th century. So think about the rise of the Western civilization. Think Shakespeare, guys, right? Come on. I mean, think about it. It was happening in water, which is all about emotions and romance, Romeo, Romeo, right? And so that's Shakespeare. So that's from then. Then in fire signs, right? From the beginning of the 17th century until the beginning of the 19th century. So it was the age of the religious war, you know, the 30-year war, the English Civil War, the age of science. A lot of stuff went down during that age, right? And then since 1802, Saturn and Jupiter conjunctions have been occurring in earth signs, with one final one occurring on May 28th of 2000. That was the last one. That last one that happened in 2000 that I mentioned in May, that happened in Taurus. So, and what age do we deal with right now? The information age, right? So after the conjunction of Jupiter and Sag and Aquarius in 2020, there's going to continue to be, the next one is going to be around 2159, 2160, around there. But this energy is all about the mind, communication, truth, humanitarianism. But we have to talk about like there's something else too. It's like all of that sounds great. Technological advancements in science, right? But it's also going to have this sense of isolation and this sense of detachment, which is very interesting because this also works opposite Leo, right? Because of the ascendant and descendant from each other. So what is Leo? Leo's about entertainment, right? Leo's about Hollywood, you know, Leo's about all of that. Well, now the entertainment is going to take on a more intelligent approach. A fake everything is going to become very transparent. That people aren't going to care about it anymore. Because if you think about Taurus is the second house of things that we value. It has to do with money. It's ruled by Venus, which is beauty. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, it costs. Oh, it's cost. It's beautiful. Money, beauty, blah, 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 right? And we've been in that nexus, right? I mean, the earth signs in general, right? It's been all about what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? You know, what are you going to have? What are you going to be able to have? How beautiful are you? Let's come up with all of this science to make you even more beautiful. Now, the collective is going to be more seduced by intellect than by external beauty. Now, I'm not saying that people are no longer going to be physically attracted to each other. That's ridiculous because we're animals, right? It's just the way it is. But romance is going to be grounded more in Leo things, right? Which is more friendship. Leos, it's very important in Leo energy to be friends with their lovers, friends with the people that they're involved with, right? People will generally be less sexual going into this next stage. It's going to be on a lower scale of importance. It's not that no one's going to be doing it. It's just, it's going to be in a lower scale of importance as a collective. I'm talking about this is the age that we're going into. Autonomy and detachment will be more normal in relationships, meaning because we're leaving this era of Earth where there was a lot of domination over people, right? So no longer will the woman be expected to, and not that women really are these days, but ladies, men even, let's be real, right? There is sort of still this low-key expectation, and people who do it differently are still considered sort of going against the norm, trying to create the new norm where more men are staying home to raise the children, women are going out to work. You know, we're still fighting for fair pay. Unfortunately, there are many areas where it's still not there, but this shift in autonomy where it's like literally like very balanced. Do you know what I'm saying? Where everybody's like it's an interdependent kind of relationship where it's no longer the man goes out and makes most of the money and the woman stays home. Not that that is the dynamic so much as it used to be, but that's a very earth thing. So because we're leaving Earth, all of that is going to be shifting. So we're shifting into a new truth. So it's very interesting. I read some research that was really mind-blowing how like down the pike like marriages, of people are going to get married, or they're going to say they're married. They're going to have different types of civil ceremonies. It's going to be almost nothing like it is now. People are actually going to be living different. I think living separately. I don't, I mean, maybe we could go back to like the separate beds, separate bedrooms if you're into that, but I don't know. I don't know if I would be comfortable with that's me. And I know a lot of you guys are like, that sounds great. I mean, I guess so, right? To have your own space just as a natural part of the relationship. But anyway, that's going to be happening because Aquarius is, even though it's the energy of the humanitarian, it also, there's a quiet detachment about Aquarius as well. And we're all going to be feeling that, right? In this age, moving out. Now, will we individually be feeling that, all of us at the same time? No. Will we all individually be feeling all of this rolling out at the same time, just in general? No. Energetically, we're all on in different places. So some of you may not be feeling this age of Aquarius for a couple of years, right? You may not feel it. So I'm going to be talking about, where Saturn is going to be hanging out for you. Jupiter is going to be hanging out in a certain sign for a year, right? But it's going to be hanging out with Saturn for a year. Saturn's still going to hang out while Jupiter moves forward for another year beyond that. So in the spring of 2023, a lot of us are going to be feeling big shifts and big differences. But so the next 2 years, it's kind of like prepping for the next 20. And I hope that wasn't confusing for you. I went off on a little tangent there. But regardless, right now, we're at the end of this era, right, of Jupiter and Saturn uniting in these earth signs. And again, while that earth element signifies that focus on material security and consolidation of resources that's resistant to change, right? Think about all of like resistant. This era of air is going to bring disruption to establish orders and lots of changes in collective ideas, and definitely in the way we communicate, right? Because it's air. And not only is Jupiter and Saturn going to be uniting in Aquarius, they're also going to be forming a crazy square aspect with Uranus and Taurus. And at this pivotal moment on our journey, the lightning bolts of Jupiter and Uranus will not only bring down old societal structures, but it's also going to impel us really to release these old personal dreams and drama that we've all been attached to. And we all have them. There's going to be these new challenges and unknown potential. And that's what's so important. It's okay to not know. Like I mentioned a few moments ago, it's okay to not know, because we have all this unpotential arising as we begin this new era, and we're all going to need to make space for it in our lives. So of course, something's going to need to be released in order to bring something else in. So now that we're at the end of 2020 and going into 2021, we all have to ask ourselves what we need to leave behind and what we truly desire to carry forward. And that, guys, is going to be in general in your life. Now, depending on your sign, I'm going to break it down into the individual signs right now. We're going to be feeling it the most in this area. Okay. Now, most of you do know in astrology, when we talk house placements, we do talk rising signs, to a lesser degree, your sun and moon. Okay. In particular. So I do recommend that you check out all of your placements. Okay. Because it's the combination of these three that you're going to be able to really understand, kind of like the holistic flavor and the affect of what you're going to be going through, right, for the next 20 years and where the shifts are going to be. Okay, so let's start with our Aries friends. So Aries, night, you guys are the babies of the zodiac. You're all about, it's very much a me energy because you guys are the first sign. You guys are the sign of the Emperor card. You are the leadership sign. You are fire. You are fresh path, new perspective. Let's go. I want to do very fiery, very independent. The age of Aquarius, though, is going to inspire you to see closer connections to groups, to your friends, to do more work within your community. And you're going to learn that you could build something unbelievable, really amazing, when you're willing to collaborate with other people and not to try to do something only your way or only on your own, right? Ultimately benefiting the collective, some sort of project, however it is that you work, right? However it is that you function in your neighborhood, however it is that you function in your family, understand that you can't do it alone. You cannot allow yourself to be very isolated, right? As that is the 11th house has to do with, it has to do with friends, it has to do with community, but it's also your goals. It's your goals and where it is that you see yourself going. Now, it's important to understand that Saturn is going to be here, right, with Jupiter. So there are going to be blessings that are being brought to you from any lessons that you had to learn from your 10th house. Saturn is just coming out of your 10th house of career. Okay. Saturn's been in your 10th, challenging your career. And now it's time, you made it through. So now it's time to bring some sort of blessing from that 10th house, that career, and it's time to bring it into your goals and wishes, right? But as you're doing that, what are you letting go of? Like really try to identify, what are you letting go of? Are you letting go of a mindset? Are you letting go on being sort of like, no, I have to do it this way. It has to be done this way kind of thing. So it's just something to think about. Now, I do want to say, like the last eclipse between Jupiter and Saturn, for those of you old enough to remember, Aries rising, it happened in your second house. So it's your second house of resources and things that you value. So if you look over these past 20 years, it's all been working towards, working towards attaining what it is that you value, whether it's your resources, the roof over your head, the education that you've attained. So some of you maybe have gone to college, finished college, got your degrees. Those are things you value, made money, things you value, get into a home, a relationship, really working on gathering together the things that you value. That's very much second house, right? Especially investments and money, right? Again, it's Taurus, right? And it's been in Taurus. So this has been a very large focus for you. But so now we're going into air, we're going into the mental, we're going into now taking everything that you learned, and now we're going to be pushing. It's going to be like a catapult, though. You need to understand, like over the next 2 years, whatever it is that you're doing is going to catapult you into your future. So really good stuff, I think, for Aries. Very good, Aries. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining me. On to our Taurus friends. So Taurus, for you, it's all about 10th house. 10th house, 10th house, 10th house. Now, I want to start with the fact that Saturn is leaving your 9th house. And so whatever gifts you had to bring from that great awakening in that 9th house, is the 9th house has to do with your belief system, your moral code, your personal philosophy. It has to do with your higher education. It has to do with your higher ideals, traveling, dealing with people from foreign lands, foreign cultures for some of you. Anything like that. With the 9th house is about, it is that Sagittarius energy. So it is about moral code, moral compass, philosophy, belief system. All right. So now we have it in your 10th. So your career is coming together in ways that you never expected now, Taurus. The age of Aquarius is going to ask you to take risks in order to secure your true calling. And this is the funny thing with age of Aquarius. It's asking everybody to do what they're not comfortable with. Like I just spoke to Aries, and Aries likes to be very kind of like the leader and like by themselves. No, their lesson is they have to expand and work with other people. You guys are going to need to take a risk. Taurus generally don't like to take risks, generally speaking. It depends on what else you have in your chart, obviously. But this is definitely going to ask you to take a risk in order to secure your true calling. And while you do prefer to do things, as I'm saying, in your own tried and true way, you're learning that sometimes you have to think outside the box in order to build a more solid foundation for yourself, create new boundaries, create new things for yourself, stretch out of your comfort zone, do things that you would normally be afraid to do, right? When it comes to professional endeavors, right? And think about, where have you been getting in your own way in this way in your 9th house, in your belief system, right? Did you have yourself entrenched in a certain psychology and a certain outlook? And what do you need to let go of? And guys, that could even have to do with a false narrative that you've been telling yourself about, that you are not capable, that I can't do this. That's not for me. That's for other people. No, right? If that's been the story, you have to change your story, change the story that you're telling yourself. And that's got to be that beautiful gift that Saturn is going to be giving you as you come out of that. Okay. So that's going to be defining the next 2 years is going to be, It's going to be setting it up for you, and it's going to be going for the next 20. All right. So good stuff, Taurus. Really good. On to our Gemini friends. Gemini rising to a lesser degree, sun and moon. You guys are going to be experiencing this in your ninth house. Like, honestly, this is going to be, I call the ninth house more like an enlightenment time. Really, it really is, right? Get ready to level up, Gemini, because this will be a huge period in your life of enlightenment. You're discovering unconventional new horizons in your life, unexpected boundaries within your spiritual ideals, your belief systems, and you're very hungry for knowledge that can help you to expand and inform your views. You're just going to be eating up information, and you guys love that anyway, right? I mean, you guys work. This is the ninth house is Sagittarius is the landlord there. That's, you guys are ascendant and descendant from each other. You guys work together. So you're just going to be like gobbling up all this new information. Don't take shortcuts, though, when it comes to your philosophical destinations. You want to read books, take classes, relish in the beauty of new things, really open up and expand yourself and focus on your truth, Gemini, right? Because you just had Saturn coming out of your eighth house, right? Saturn's coming out of your eighth house of other people's money. It's very much the house of we, how you show up as a partner in relationships, how you show up for other people, right? Eighth house also has to do with things that are happen in cycles. So money that's in cycles, things, but there's always this idea of sort of relying on other people. And now whatever you learned in this eighth house, it's fundamentally shifting your belief system that's going to end up coloring the next 20 years for you, which is really beautiful. Okay, so that's for our Gemini friends. Cancer. Cancer rising to a lesser degree, sun and moon. Okay, you guys have this going on in your eighth house. Saturn just came out of your seventh house of marriage partnerships, of partnerships in general, business partnerships, very close family and friend connections, anyone you have a shared soul purpose with. Saturn was giving you a go in there, giving you a go. So now it's time to take whatever lessons you learned in that seventh house and bring it into the eighth house. So the age of Aquarius is asking you to find new ways to be vulnerable. Not easy for a Cancer, right? While also maintaining boundaries. And we're all being asked, oh, Cancer, you're not the only one. We're all being, you take the actual archetype, right, of any sign, and each sign is being challenged to do what's most uncomfortable for them in order to in order to see the most growth. But it's going to be more supported than it's been, so it won't feel so weird, because it's about maintaining boundaries for you too. So you may have to learn some tough lessons when it comes to relying on other people, right? Especially over this coming year, even more so over the next 2 years, okay? But it's this overcoming. Now, whether it's financially or emotionally, these challenges will also allow you to strengthen your resolve by developing that inner sense in you, right? Your inner warrior, Cancer. You're going to be developing that strong sense of self, the ability to feel that level of autonomy and independent, where you're able to be interdependent in a relationship, but you're able to stand on your own 2 feet, and you want to be open to new ways of healing and connecting with others. And this isn't to say that you don't make your own money, or this isn't to say that you can't solve your own problems, but the Cancer archetype, particularly rising to a lesser degree sun and moon, there is this element of really relying on other people, at least in a certain element. And we do need each other. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying that you're going to be in this space where I don't need anybody. That's not what it means. If you think about what the eighth house is, it's your partner's money. It's inheritance, it's insurance payouts, it's money from investments, it's money from the stock market, it's money from business partnerships, it's money that involves other people, it's communication that involves other people. It happens to also be intimacy, where you connect on a soul level with someone. But here it's like you can't look to this other to finish your sentence at all, right? This really is about recognizing that even within that we, there is a me in there somewhere, Okay, so that's what we have for you guys, Cancer. Okay, it's really healthy stuff. All right, now going on to Leo. So Leo, rising to a lesser degree, sun and moon, you guys have this going on in your seventh house, okay? Now you've just had Saturn is just leaving your sixth house. So the sixth house was your day-to-day work environment, day-to-day experience in general, but especially your day-to-day work, people you work with and for. It's also your house of health. That would be mental, physical, emotional health, okay? So, Leo, lots of lessons that you've been going through. I would have to say, especially even over the past like year or two, you guys have really been sort of, something's been like, sort of, bubbling up to the surface that you've needed to really look at regarding either your day-to-day work experience, your health, maybe a little bit of both. So this age of Aquarius is definitely going to inspire freedom. All right. In all of us. But Leo, you're going to feel this the most deeply within your love life. Absolutely. So if you're in a relationship, be ready to get unconventional, because that's where Aquarius comes in, and redefine the rules of your partnership. And this energy shift is going to bring up questions that require creative solutions. So if you're single, you have to be very open-minded. You're learning very tough lessons about compromise and what you need to feel free in love. And this is where and not an easy energy for Leo. Listen, as I was been saying for all the signs, all of the signs, all of the signs, when you take Leo, what is it? Leo is very much a me energy. Let's have a good time. I want to do what I want to do. It's very much a me energy. Not that it's selfish. The low vibration of it is egotism, but I like to think that a lot of Leos don't live only in their low vibration. But it's very much a fun, focusing on things that you love to do, your creative endeavors, what you think is, the right way to be. And it's not that you're not open to other people's ideas, but it's very challenging for you to get to that point of compromise, but you're going to be pushed to do that during this new age. But the benefit is so promising on the other side of this, Leo. It just really is. So you're going to need to figure out, where do you get stuck in relationship? Whether it's, where do you get yourself stuck, or where do you allow other people to sort of get in your way, and you need to really come up with some sort of creative solution to that, for sure. Okay, Leo, that's what we have for you guys. So going on to Virgo. So Virgo rising to a lesser degree, sun and moon. Virgo, you guys are going to be feeling this beautiful age of Aquarius energy in your sixth house of day-to-day work environment. Man, you guys going to be busy, busy, busy bees. Okay, day-to-day work environment, your day-to-day experience in general. It also has to do with your mental, physical, and emotional health and your well-being, right? So take a deep breath, Virgo, because your schedule is going to be packed, right? With responsibilities, more than you could see right now. You can be kind of all over the place. Just want to be careful, right? But you're being blessed with amazing work opportunities. So isn't that exciting if that's what you're looking for? But saying yes to everything is not the way to go. You can't, because that's going to end up costing you your well-being. You're going to end up compromising your mental and emotional constitution, seriously, because you will not be able to do everything well, because that's going to flip you out, right? Because Virgo rising here, we like to do everything a certain way, and that's impossible when you have to do so many things. So pick and choose, pick and choose. Definitely find ways to break out of your usual routine in order to make room for the new duties and the new endeavors, though. And really try to do that with great awareness, like now. Like right now, try to do that. I know I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to shift things out, say, what can I give up? What do I need to pull back from a little bit? And it's just so, there's room. So there's room, because there is stuff coming in. Now, Virgo, we just had Saturn is leaving our fifth house. So the fifth house is our house of creativity, falling in love, romance, our children, things that we love to do, entrepreneurial efforts, anything like that. So Saturn's been hanging in that fifth house, not the easiest energy. So you might have been finding there being especially the past 2 years, but maybe maybe even the past 20 years, right? That idea of relationship has been just a little challenging. And the idea of creativity and being able to get things out there and being able to, some of you may have even, struggled with children or, anything like that, right? Anything where it would require your creativity, that's where the blessings are coming in now, though, right? Because Saturn's leaving there. And when Saturn leaves a long placement, he drops a really sweet present. And that present is going to be brought into the sixth house. So I really like it, especially for those of you who, maybe have been, I mean, this isn't me, but I mean, this is for many of you who are like going to start your own business or something like that. Really great energy, right? Because that is fifth house energy, nothing like a sweet Saturnian gift going as you go into your house of day-to-day work. So nice stuff there. Okay, going on to our Libra friends. So Libra rising to a lesser degree, sun and moon. You guys are going to be feeling this age of Aquarius energy in your fifth house. Okay, you've just had Saturn leave your fourth house of home, feeling grounded, feeling rooted, safe, secure, all of that. Saturn's leaving that, going into your fifth house. Okay, so we're going to have Jupiter hanging out here with Saturn for about a year. Then Jupiter leaves, then Saturn's going to hang out there for until about April of 2023. Okay, that's kind of for all of us. So this is happening in your fifth house. So this age of Aquarius is asking you to get serious and dream big when it comes to what brings you happiness, Libra. What really brings you pleasure? What do you love to do? The fifth house is the house of fun, the house of romance, falling in love affairs, what you do with your partner on a Monday through Sunday. It has to do with children. It has to do with creative endeavors, gambling. if it's so inclined, but you didn't hear that here. I'm just saying, like, that is what that's the energy. And there's potential for growth in the realms of love and creativity this year, especially, no question. This could go really well for anything from beginning a new love affair, to passion projects, something that you really love to do. This could even be leveling up the day-to-day experience that you have with your partner. You know, you might be with your partner a long time. You're not, starting a new relationship, but your day-to-day interactions are much different. But remember, like, nothing thrives without some structure and discipline. So you have to be willing to put in the work to make those dreams come true. So this is something that you're really trying to develop some sort of creative endeavor, or if it is that you're trying to maybe start a new relationship, or if it is that you're trying to level up how you connect with your partner, you're going to have to do some work there, right? It doesn't just happen. Aquarius is all about thinking things differently, right? It's about taking what is and looking at it out of the box. That's what Aquarius is. And Saturn is about rules and working at something. So it's working at something differently, right? So you have to think about, where do you need to maybe release or let go of your methodologies in this area or your approach in this area in general up to this point. Okay, and it's time to really honor that, right? And let go of what's no longer serving you, to make room for this new energy that's coming in. Okay, now let's go on to our Scorpio friends. Okay, so Scorpio, rising sign to a lesser degree, sun and moon. You guys are going to be feeling this in your fourth house of home. Okay, I really like this energy for you. I have to say, you've had Saturn in your third house. Saturn's leaving the third house. Saturn's going to bring you a blessing having to do with something regarding maybe improving the communication. That's third house energy in your home. Fourth house energy, the way you communicate. It could also be improving relationships with family, siblings, parents, cousins, extended family, seeing things very different. I feel like for Scorpios particularly, this is going to be a rather nostalgic year. I think a lot of Scorpios are going to be preparing themselves for an intense trip down memory lane, right? Because this age of Aquarius is going to be asking you to get serious about examining the foundations of your home life, your family, and childhood, your childhood, and figure out what's working and what's not working. What are you still carrying with you? Why do you do what you do? All of that. So we talk about that all the time. And I know a lot of people don't see the point in doing that. But I ask that you maybe rethink that if you're of that mindset, only because we are the product of our experiences, right? It makes sense. So if we tend to get in our own way, if we find that we are very scared of things, you know, I could, and I know, when do I never talk about myself, but I'm going to give a very basic example because I feel like this might help somebody. Um, I was raised in a house where there was a lot of yelling all the time. My father was like a hot-headed Guinea Italian, crazy, European parents. They were my father was very loud. My mother really wasn't. She was pretty chill. She was easygoing. She was a lot of fun. She was funny, but he was a very abusive man, right? My father was very abusive, narcissist. So there was a lot of violence in my house. So I would see a lot of fighting, but I didn't see a lot of resolve. I would see the fighting, and then I would see my father trying to, like, kiss my mother's ass, sending her flowers and stuff. But I never got to see that resolve, right? So when I started getting into relationships, to me, the second anybody would as much as raise their voice, get out of line, bye. I wasn't sticking around, right? I was so fussy with the people that I got into relationship with. I wouldn't go near. You could go on one end of the spectrum or the other. My sisters went on the other end of the spectrum. I wouldn't. To me, I was like so the other way, but I was not and I used to say, like, I used to think like, well, I'm never going to anybody like daddy. Like daddy's like crazy ass, yelling, and he gets violent and he hits and da da da. And I'm not going anywhere near that. And it made me viscerally uncomfortable when I would hear the yelling. Well, it took me a long time working things through in therapy to realize that, I was cutting and running from really good normal relationships that just needed resolution. I needed to understand resolution. And I was very abject to that for a long time. I didn't see the point in it. And I'm like, look, the bottom line is if somebody's yelling at me and they're not treating me nice, I'm going. But sometimes you have to have that discord in order to get to the resolve, right? Obviously I learned this many, many years ago, but it did take me a bit in the beginning. It was it was a rough road for me in the beginning when, and I'm sure many of you can relate to what I'm talking about. You fall on one side of the fence or the other. My sisters went on the other side, so it depends on what side of the fence you fall on. So really looking at that, really looking at your childhood, where you come from, why you do what you do, why you go after what you go after, why you tolerate what you do. All of that is built into like the DNA. But at the same time, Scorpio, I have to tell you that I see there being beautiful growth when it comes to this fourth house of home. I really do. Because once you're able to fix those issues, you're going to have this beautiful chance to rebuild your idea of safety and connection. And you could choose your family and come out feeling more stable than ever. So, and again, that family is whoever you choose it to be. So it's a really, I feel like ultimately so healthy for you. And you're going to be feeling the change huge over the next year, huge. Especially over the next 2 years, it's going to be rolling out even more, but it's going to be changing the affect of your life over the next 20 years. Okay. Okay. So thank you, Scorpio. Let's go on to Sagittarius. So Sag, you guys are going to be feeling this age of Aquarius in your third house of communication. So third house is landlord is Gemini, right? So it's you guys work together, Sagittarius and Gemini, ascendant and descendant from each other. So your fiery personality loves to connect, share ideas, sound off on opinions. But as we approach the age of Aquarius, rethink your approach, Sag, right? Doing more listening than talking can help you pick up on information that you may have overlooked otherwise. And this can lead you to making very important breakthroughs in your life right now. So open your mind to new ways of connecting with people and things around you. This is very much like releasing you thinking you know everything. I'm not saying that you're saying that, but figure out any area where you think, that, we all have that area in our life. We all do. So think about it, right? Now, if you guys are Sagittarius risings, especially your first house of self, you could just have this general, like, this is the way I think life should be considered, right? Open your mind. Really, you're going to be pushed. You're going to be pushed to look at things differently, especially you guys. It's no accident that you guys are the south node of the moon right now, which is where karma needs to be burnt off, where there needs to be karma released. There needs to be a change of thinking. And that's a total opposite energetic happening than this conjunction. You follow? But you see how they're connected? The connection is incredible. You have to release that that energy, and you have to really tap into Gemini and ask Gemini for some help right now to evolve into this next generation of yourself. And what is Gemini? Gemini is the third house. So I think this is fabulous for you guys. It's so good. Really, really good. Okay, on to our Capricorn friends. Both Jupiter and Saturn have been clustered together in your sign all year. So the shift into Aquarius is just going to be like, huh, thank God, such a weight off your shoulders, right? Now, this is for Capricorn rising, especially to a lesser degree, sun and moon, right? So you want to make sure you check your all of your signs. So you're going to be feeling much lighter, but you don't want to get too comfortable in this energy, right? You want to sharpen your earth sign sensibilities when it comes to finances, Capricorn, as we are dealing with the second house of finances, things that you value, right? Because you may experience some major luck in this area having to do with things that you value, but you can only capitalize on that good fortune if you're disciplined about managing your money. And I think you guys have that covered, but to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Make sure you're keeping your pocketbook close to you, and be on the watch out for any sort of opportunists, anybody like that. I really like this for you. You guys need a little lightening up. It will be a lightening up. You are going to be feeling this in the biggest way. And I really like what's going to be happening in your money sector. I like the transits that are going to be happening for you. So good stuff. Finally, right, Capricorn? My gosh, right? Okay, Aquarius. Ah, it's your first house of self. So if you're an Aquarius at the dawning age of the age of Aquarius, prepare for some major blessings, life changes, and intense lessons to come. Lots of lessons here. Saturn is only going to grace your sign a few times in a lifetime. So you have to listen closely to its teachings now and really try to view any challenges that you might be experiencing or any failures that you might experience as opportunities to grow, right? While some heavy shifts are going to be happening, you're definitely going to be feeling more confident and more powerful than you ever have. So just ride the waves of change, knowing that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Everything is happening for you exactly in perfect timing. It just is. So even if you're feeling very, very confused right now, it's okay. It's not going to last, I promise. Okay. So again, this is your first house of self. A lot of you guys, by the way, may be, particularly over the course of the next year, you may be making very different changes in your physical appearance. Changing a workout routine, changing your physical, changing your haircut, getting a new wardrobe. You might even be doing some sort of like deep soul searching and some inner work where you actually look different to people in your life, if that makes sense. As I always say, the 12th house, it feeds into the first house, and the 12th house is such a spiritual house. So you may be doing a lot of really great spiritual work that actually changes your affect, right? When people meet you, which is really beautiful. Okay, thank you, Aquarius. Pisces, finally, Pisces. So Pisces, you guys are going to be feeling it in your home space of the 12th house. So for you, this age of Aquarius marks a period of quiet but steady growth, expansion, and lots of cleanup. So this is a time to dust out your spiritual and your subconscious closets and get rid of any past nonsense, any past baggage that's been weighing on your soul, whether these are limiting beliefs, I can't do this, people always do X, Y, and Z when I get in relationships with them, or, anything like that, limiting beliefs, unhealed emotional wounds, toxic relationships, toxic anything, right? Be willing to listen to your higher self and trust that your heart knows what's best. This is going to be, I just think so profound for Pisces, right? Especially over the next 2 years. Now, what I like about this, though, is huge shifts over the next year, positive, because Jupiter is going to be hanging out there, right? And then Jupiter is going to be moving out of the 12th house, leaving Saturn in there by himself for another year until around April of 2023. So good stuff is going to be formulating that next year. You're not going to have the softening of Jupiter, but it's going to be so unbelievably productive that it's just going to change the trajectory of your life for the next 20 years. So for many of you, it's like this fundamental change in your subconscious that is going to end up beautifully coloring the rest of your life. I can't tell you how positive this is. This is so beautiful. So that is what I have for all 12 signs. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your support, and best of luck to each and every one of you, all of us, during this beautiful age of Aquarius. You guys take care now. Bye-bye.